All
And
right,
we're
well,
back.
yeah, welcome back, guys. It's been a pretty long day. We've had a little bit over 3.5 hours of games, but we're actually going to come down to our final match between Powder and Irony. Two players, they've both won one match and they've lost one match. So at this point, it's really anyone's game. I don't believe these two have faced off against each other previously, so it's going to be an entirely new series.
Yeah, and lately from the track record, Powder has been picking Control Warrior first in both of his series, so I'd expect to see some more Control Warrior games. So I think we should get comfortable for this monk. Powder, of course, in the first series he played, he just picked Control Warrior 3 times in a row. And those were some really epic games. It's always fun to see those like bigger legendaries come out when we're so used to these more aggressive decks to have the extra element of fun there.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think Control Warrior is actually going to do pretty well against Irony. Just looking at these matchups, you have Control Warrior versus Patron, which is a fairly favorable matchup. You have Control Warrior versus Hunter, which is definitely okay. And finally, you have Control Warrior versus Rogue, which is an insanely good matchup.
Yeah. Yeah, Control Warrior like one of the natural enemies against Rogue that you just gain so much health, and the Rogue doesn't have enough creatures to really keep applying pressure. Of course, we see Control Warrior versus Hunter. Irony was playing the like very standard mid-range Hunter, right? So typically this has a very good match against Control Warrior. More of like us. Well, you have the numbers with you, Monk. I don't want to shoot my mouth off, but I would give it about 60% plus against the Control Warrior.
The mid range Hunter versus Control Warrior, right?
Yeah.
Give me a second.
No problem. Well, I should get a database of numbers for myself so I can make awesome statements like you managed to.
Actually, the mid range Hunter. This is actually in it over 16 games. The Control Warrior wins 10 out of 16.
Wow. That definitely defies my personal experience, but I'll trust the statistics on that. I'll see if
Well,
Powder can make it happen.
to be fair, though, I wouldn't trust the statistics that much since it's only over a course of 16 games.
Yeah.
I generally like you can't really make too many conclusions off of that. I generally wait for at least around 40 games before I make a definitive conclusion.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Well, I mean, this is a fair start for both players here. They've had reasonable opening curves. There wasn't anyone missing anything super crucial. There was weapons in hand, Acolyte of Pain. Next turn is pretty awkward for Irony. He could have actually considered playing Freezing Trap last turn just to freeze the Acolyte instead of the Shredder. Because he has two Freezing Traps after all, and the Acolyte is now getting the Warrior all this potential plays for later. Like, Sludge Belcher would not have been drawn, and that would be a way different game if he did not have Sludge Belcher on 5 here.
Yeah, it's a pretty good point. A lot of different lines, but now we do see Powder will be able to actually curve out fairly well. And not only that, he'll eventually have a Sylvanas on the board on turn 6, which challenges the high main very well. Even though there's a freezing trap, I don't think it'll matter that much since Powder has the Brawl to follow up with the Sylvanas, and he's not really going to be in any danger whatsoever.
So yeah, it looks like he can take the Freezing Trap with the Ooze as well. It might also be that Irony chooses not even to play the high main in this position. There's not a lot of other great plays for him, but killing the Ooze and forcing the Sylvanas to get frozen is like way better in almost every way possible. So he could go for the kill command on the Sludge Belcher and then trade on the Ooze with Lotheb.
But just the fact that Powder was able to deny the Sludge Belcher on 6 means quite a lot.
That Timber Wolf will be interesting. Eventually it might be useful with an Unleash the Hounds, but it's a pretty poor creature off the web spinner in a matchup like this where you're looking for pretty much the biggest beasts you could ask for.
Yeah, and in the best case scenario where you use it with an Unleash the Hounds, the problem with that is Unleash the Hounds is not very valuable in this matchup either. Oh, man.
Oh, the Sylvanas on the 1 and 4 off of the Brawl. That is enormous that he kept that. Essentially what would have happened was the Lotheb was the best thing to have win the Brawl other than Sylvanas, and he would still have a 5/5, but now he has the mind control effect still in play, and it's like, what do you even do here as the Hunter? You're playing into something that's going to steal your creatures.
And I mean, that feels pretty bad. One thing that's all right about this board is that even if Sylvanas attacks in the high main, because Sylvanas was
Oh
played
yeah,
first, the Sylvanas wouldn't actually steal anything.
yeah,
So,
that's
so
true.
he there's also like a play where he goes for the shield slam, and if you draw a shield block, or if he goes for the shield block, and if you draw a shield slam, the game's over, since you can even steal the high main.
Yeah, so the death rattle effect from the high main goes off second, which makes the high main a lot more impressive here. I like that play. He could have also had shield block into Taskmaster, and then Taskmaster BGH'd his own Sylvanas.
Yeah.
All right, well, now there's a lot of flux on the board, and a brawl's already been played, so I think Irony feels pretty good that there's not going to be any AoE removal, and he'll just punch face and make the warrior try to deal with this the best that they can. Oh man, if he had shield blocked last turn, he could have Taskmaster BGH'd his own Sylvanas. That would have been an enormous swing.
But now he's actually in a pretty tenuous situation. How does he deal with this board that effectively?
Yeah, I don't know. So he can BGH the high main, though that doesn't accomplish that much. BGH the high main, trade on the Hound or the Timberwolf, and then Taskmaster his own Sylvanas to steal one.
Okay.
Is there any way to steal the Houndmaster?
You can just does he have a risk here? Like task or the Timberwolf taskmaster bonus to God to steal the.
There's a bit of Skype issues again. There's a lot of plays there. Oh, and he gets the high main. That was definitely what he wanted. That was absolutely the best play that he managed to do. Could not have asked for a better setup. He's now in really dominating position. He's got Alex Straza. He's got a Shield Maiden, Armor Smith. I don't think anything could go wrong for him. It was a complete 50-50 gamble there, but that worked out just magically. So I think he's pretty happy about that steal on the high main. I don't think there was any way to guarantee it, so the gamble seems pretty worthwhile there, all things considered. It's easy to say now that we've seen him take it, but, well, in any case, the hunter is going to attempt to put on as much pressure as he can. It seems like you could just Shield Maiden and Armor Smith here, and you're in pretty good position. Oh, actually, yeah, he is lethal, doesn't he? Well, that works out even better then. Beautiful play by Powder this game, taking the game against Midrange Hunter, which I normally find a very difficult match for Control Warrior, in just absolute style with the steal on the high main. That looked really awesome. There were plays where you could have killed the high main there and softened up the board by like BGHing the high main and then trading on things and leaving him with like roughly 5 average damage, which would be a little safer. But I mean, even if he stole the Hound and the high main was there, he wasn't dead next turn and he could still fight the game out. So I think that was a risk that ended up winning him the whole game, and otherwise it would have been okay-ish. So it's fine at that point. If it's like a risk versus dying or not dying, then I don't think he would do that. That's just the first game, of course, but always nice to take that one. The one thing we can say is that Powder's lineup is like a very control-heavy lineup, so it's going to be pretty good in the matches, I think, against, or sorry, Powder's lineup is control-heavy. It's going to be good in the matches against Irony's more like mid-rangey decks. Waiting for Monk to get back in the call. I will entertain you guys on my own for now. We do see Powder playing Rogue versus Irony again picking the mid-range hunter. Welcome back, Monk. Are you with me now? I cannot hear him yet. Why don't you solo this? All right, I got this. I got this, you guys. It's all up to me now. Your fate is in my hands. Yeah, we have quite a few games left. We'll probably take like a 1 minute break between this game and the next game to make sure we get that sorted out. Because I don't want to leave you guys without the soothing, beautiful voice of Monk accompanying me. So, pretty good hand from Powder here. It's the coin, and the coin is way better than going first in this matchup for the Rogue. The Hunter would honestly not care that much, except they just want the coin so that the Rogue doesn't have it. Ooh, that Bloodfen Raptor off the web spinner. Wow, that was so perfect for him. There is a Van Cleef in Powder's deck, which we haven't seen with any of the other rogues yet. That Bloodfen Raptor changes the entire game. I think you might want to consider saving the poison here because you can use it for the combo next turn. Alright, he's going to go for it. Essentially, you take... Oh, wow, a Snake Trap. Well, it didn't really work out the way Powder wanted, but he does have the fan for next turn, so it's not all bad. Yeah, if you save the poison, you could use it next turn. You would only get the one attack out of the weapon with poison on, but that doesn't matter if you're killing the creature anyways, and the SI agent would deal with the raptor without taking the hit. Overall, it's pretty much the same. The Fan of Knives works perfectly, just setting up for later in the game. And pretty good draw. Mad Scientist is going to double up the trap, so it's not that great, but at least allows him to play on curve. Silence is completely useless in this match. That's like a dead card for Irony, so there's not a lot in his hand right now. Whoa, Powder not even thinking, just goes for it. I guess he knows exactly that there's no traps left, so get the job done. He played out the Earthen here because he wants the Earthen to threaten freezing, and that way he'll get an extra heal later. And if any creature is going to get frozen, it might as well be something with a battle cry. So this works out really well, and this is like exactly what Powder wanted to see, right? To see the Rogue pass on turn 6 feels fantastic. But Dr. Boom next turn is basically the most difficult creature in the game for a Rogue to deal with, so it's still pretty up in the air. Pretty straightforward turn for Irony. There's no finish damage in the hand though, just an unleash, so even if the Dr. Boom connected fully, unless there was some ridiculous bomb RNG, it's very unlikely that the Rogue would die next turn. The biggest problem is you have to do 30 damage, like no damage at all has been dealt to the Hunter at this point. I like this play a lot. It's a little off curve, and you're still stuck with the Boombots. So does he trade on the Boombots now? He could have attacked with the dagger first, and that would have meant that the Boombot was much less likely to kill his SI agent, which is like slightly better, but then he also might not want to take the face damage. Okay, that was pretty much the best thing for him to have die, and he got a decent creature out of it. Having stealth against a hunter is quite powerful. Ah, oh, man. You gotta play creatures here. That's all you got in your hands, so... Shredder, Creeper, Hero Power. Doesn't seem like any reason to trade. You want as much face damage as you can, and the Boombot's still getting you 1 damage, so let's put it to work. Double Earthen. That's a perfect mana curve turn, but you do need to set up a lot of damage. I guess, yeah, you'll check and see what he gets, because 10 health doesn't feel very comfortable. Oh, that was nice. Wait, no, that's terrible. Suddenly the Ironbeak Owl is amazing. I think you would be really happy to see an Ancient Watcher, except that that Ironbeak Owl didn't do anything from Irony until this point. Is there maybe lethal? He has 3 with Unleash. Oh yeah, definitely lethal now. Boombot for 4 damage to the face, Powder with a smirk, knowing that, like, you know, even without something like the Ancient Watcher play, he's still probably dead at that point. And Irony will take the game. Just seeing if we can get a quick 1 minute break for you guys so we can have Monk join us back on the audio settings. It looks like we will, so I will see you guys in just a minute. And we're back. It appears that our cameras have switched positions, but we'll get that sorted out in just a minute. I'm joined, of course, by Monk over here, and
You
it's
mean
good to have you
Hupfor,
back,
right?
Monk.
I'm glad that I get to be a Canadian for the day.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it's all about. But we saw some pretty exciting game. The last game was pretty RNG based. I saw it was like a 4 damage boom bot into
Yeah.
like a shredder drop that was a watcher, and he had an owl just for that. I know Powder, he looked a bit salty from those plays. Can't
Yep.
blame him for that though.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was still going to be an uphill climb for Powder with the like health deficit he was at, but we're heading right back into the game. Of course, the players don't want to mess around any; they want to be fighting it out. So, looks like Warlock versus Rogue. This is a very tactical match. Nothing compared to the last fight we saw. We're going to see some real strategy involved in this compared.
Yeah. Handlock versus Rogue even, and this is going to be a standard Rogue, not like what Nostum was playing, the very aggro based Rogue. I think Rogue is going to be slightly favored here because one of its biggest strengths is developing huge weapons, and compared to like the old Miracle Rogue days where Handlock was considered a counter to Miracle Rogue, the problem here is like because of Tinker Sharpsword at all, you can get enough of a big dagger that you can just Blade Flurry everything away.
Yep. Yeah, that's a really recent addition with Tinker Oil that you can get your weapon to be 8 damage plus, and then suddenly you're killing any possible creature they could play with a 2 mana AoE damage.
Yeah.
The 2 Mountain Giants, though, is the absolute best thing you can have in the opening, so Powder's hand is off to a pretty good start.
Yeah, it's definitely true. Yeah, Arnie is drawing a lot of cards, and it's actually like the 1/1s here. Oh my,
Wow.
that's so many 1/1s.
The double prep There's just a huge amount of tempo on this turn, and that is so unfortunate for Powder. I mean, like in many situations that wouldn't be such a big deal, but since he had the second giant, and now it's like he didn't even need that second giant, he won't have time to play them both.
Yeah, I think this is actually like probably the best start that Irony could have hoped for. Getting both preps early on and getting a Violet Teacher on the field. Something else to note is that even though Irony had a Shade on turn 3, he didn't decide to play it, instead opting for the more powerful Violet Teacher, which leads me again to question how good exactly that the Shade is in this deck.
We have Violet apprentices, Violet recruits filling up the entire board right now. An army of recruits. He could choose to kill the giant, but that seems really weird to me. If the Lotheb hadn't come down, there was a nice play with Hellfire and Dark Bomb to clear the board, and it would push a lot of face damage, but now that's kind of shut out. Maybe Sludge Belcher next turn.
Yeah. I don't really see too much of a reason for not going face here.
Yeah.
Because none of these 1/1 tokens are probably going to get taken care of. And you're going to have a decision as to what you trade into on the very next turn. So if you either don't attack or you trade into these creatures, you're essentially missing some damage.
Well, I think you have to sludge, right? If you had a taunt, like Sunfear Protector would be amazing here. You drop the other giant, Sunfear Protector, your Watcher, and fresh giant, and you trade on the Lotheb. Not pushing any face damage is pretty frustrating for the Hand Warlock because it feels like eventually the Rogue can set up a big amount of bursts since he had the card draw early. You want to be applying pressure so they're forced to trade, and he's still at 30 health, so that hasn't happened at all. Oh, the plays from the Rogue. Whenever we look at a Rogue's hand and I think, what is he going to do with all of these cards available?
Top form, I know you like a lot of decks that like require a lot of thinking. You like Patron Warrior, you like Handlock, but I haven't really seen you play a lot of Rogue these days.
Yeah, I haven't played as much Rogue lately. I guess I felt like I like to kind of make decks, and it seems like the Oil Rogue has been ironed out to such perfection, and it feels like a great deck that maybe I just can't be as creative with it.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's so clean cut with the preps into sprint, and you know your tempo mechanics are all there and beautiful synergy. Yeah, I like the Hellfire. Get rid of that Shade right away.
Yep.
You definitely have a choice now, right?
Yeah, I like the just Dark Bombing here. The 8/8 is tempting, but you've already seen what like that one teacher can do.
I think the 8/8 is a little more tempting because it was a teacher. So you know that if he had like an oil play, it would have a chance to hit the recruit, and then there would be not enough damage.
Yeah, that makes some sense as well.
For example, he could have, had the teacher been on the board, he could have played Eviscerate first to get the combo, and then Oil. And if it had hit the teacher on the 1 and 3, it would have been lethal.
Yeah. Another thing to consider is because Irony's used both preps early on in the game, now his plays are much more predictable. Whereas if he still had preps remaining in his deck, you don't know how much effective mana he has.
I think Powder's really looking for something like a Sunfear Protector or Defender of Argus. He has so many big creatures, he just needs to lock it down with like one big board here, but he's still feeling kind of vulnerable. Both sprints already burned. Irony's gotten a good chunk of his deck available. He's not killing the giant, eh? He could have backstab and eviscerated the giant, which would be a perfect 8 damage kill on it.
I do think he's probably saving the eviscerate though, because he does feel like that you kind of need it to get down your final points of damage onto the handlock.
Yeah, that makes sense. He also has the flurry, so I guess he knows that he can do a pretty good job clearing the board, even if he had to attack into the giant and then flurry, because he has so much health left, that isn't out of the question.
Powder probably right now he's considering whether he wants to Like, how many of these owls do you want to use, right?
Yeah, that's true. You could.
Technically, you could double owl and kill off the shredder with your watcher, and then go to face.
Well, that's a good draw. Maybe not right now, but what about Mountain Giant and Owl? He's committing to double Owl, I guess.
Okay.
He does get to
So
push the 8 face.
yeah, so this play, yeah, he gets to push the 8 face, and he gets to remove the minion on the board, so Sharp Sword Oil isn't as good, and he even just kills off a 1/2 dagger. It's basically he's basically trying to make it sure that he doesn't die in the next turn. And even though these seem like somewhat inefficient plays, it does guarantee that he's alive now.
Yeah, I mean, oozing the weapon feels really weird, right? Because we can see a weapon buff in hand, but it's just rare for the rogue to actually sit on the weapon in a match like this. Most of the time, they'll play it and flurry right away. So it's like an extra 2 mana on turn that he's not going to be able to use for whatever other spells he wants if he has to replay the dagger.
Yeah, that's a great point. I was suggesting like teching in some oozes um, into our into Team Liquid's decks for some tournaments. But then my teammates were like, "No, oozes actually they aren't actually good against Rogue because the Rogue just Blade Flurries the same turn they buff their weapons. They're only
Yep.
really useful against patrons out of like the most common decks, and I guess to some extent hunters."
Yeah, it's interesting how ooze has kind of come back into the meta. There's a lot of the aggressive paladin as well, which makes it a pretty reasonable
Yeah,
play.
I feel like the ooze isn't even that great against aggressive paladin.
Or shaman with a doomhammer. It's like it
Yeah.
gets rare situational use, and the rest of the time it's like pretty average, so you can justify carrying one around.
Yeah, I like how like all these weapons that we have in the metagame are slightly different from one another. That like the ooze is really good against certain weapons, like it's good against the Doom Hammer, obviously, but it's not really that great against Power Mace. It's good against True Silver, but not really that great against Light's Justice. And it's great against the Eaglehorn Bow, but really not that amazing against the Glaive Zuka.
Okay, so hang on a minute. Is he dead if he doesn't trade? There's a 6 damage flurry. So I'd put the warlock at 10. He needs to get through both taunts. No, he's fine, even if he doesn't trade. There'll be one
I
giant with 2 health left, and then the eviscerate can't go face. It has to kill the giant.
Yeah, I think one issue is that you can't like hit the you can't hit one of the giants with your face anymore.
True. Yeah, yeah,
Since
you're 9 exactly. That's very true. If you could have hit the giant with face, you would be just a 2 health remaining on, or 3 health remaining on the mountain giant, 2 health on the molten giant. That would be the only thing stopping lethal here, and you would have to put the eviscerate into it. Instead, it looks like he has to trade and eviscerate the giants, but it will clear the entire board. If only he had another oil and a prep, I suppose. Actually takes quite a bit.
yeah. So yeah, I wonder who's winning at this point.
I
Well,
think
no,
this
actually,
looks,
yeah, it's definitely handlock favorite now that I look at it closely. Like he
If he
has
didn't
the
have the
molten
molten, then
giant.
maybe.
Yeah, because if you just have Jiraxis, for example, it actually doesn't feel that great since you're worried about even more burst. But like pretty much no burst is remaining in Irony's hand.
So you could choose to Watcher and Taunt, yeah, over Sludge Belcher. Yeah, I think both of them are a pretty legit play there.
I don't think you're worried about dying anytime soon. Double heal bot.
It's actually a really nice play for Irony. He gets to buy more time. The only problem is there's nothing in his hand that's ever going to let him deal with the Molten Giant. Oh, he might life tap, yeah. Ooh.
Oh,
Well, that'll
that's
be a
pretty
life
much gonna
save.
lock out. Yeah, you can just I think go out of phase here. Lotheb taunt something up, and you're pretty happy with your play.
Lotheb, that absolute rogue annihilator. Like, it didn't even make a huge difference here. Just playing the 5/5 was probably enough. But that security of knowing that he can't do anything. Oh, wow. And the other oil was drawn, so it did make a pretty big difference. You could have gone for a second flurry and maybe traded with the heal bots.
Yeah, definitely a very back and forth game right there. I'm gonna have to give it to Powder. I really thought that Irony was quite ahead early on in the game when he got the or when he got the Vi teacher and just got so much value off of it with all those tokens. You don't think of it that much, but Vi teacher is actually quite difficult for the handlock to deal with since it like the handlock it doesn't have really good AoE, especially against the Violet teacher. Hellfire does like exactly the wrong damage. It can't kill off the 5 health Violet teacher, and it can't kill off the 1 health tokens very efficiently. So we're gonna go on to our potential final match, a rogue mirror.
Yeah, this is a really cool match. I mean, I've seen players bring all different strategies. I've seen people go that they want to win on cards in this match, and they'll get as much card draw as they can to set up a big turn. I've seen board control. You can do multiple things based on your current hand, so it'll be interesting to see what these guys go for here. A lot of the turn 1 to like 4 is pretty standard, but once we get into the 5 mana plays, then you're looking at making some pretty serious decisions every single turn. I will say that Irony's been playing pretty much flawlessly from what I've seen, so for Powder to be up 2-1, it's a lot of credit to Powder in how he's managed this series.
Yeah. Okay, this play makes quite a bit of sense because next turn you can oil or you can poison and SI agent, and you'll definitely have the board to yourself.
Yep. If he gets a 2 health creature out of that shredder, it's going to be pain time.
Yeah, it sets up perfectly for the either predicted Violet teacher or the predicted piloted shredder. Oh, that's just amazing.
Powder already hovering over the SI agent, thinking, it's going to be a 2 health creature. There are a fair number of 3 health creatures for 2 mana, though, so it's by no means guaranteed that would work.
Yeah. Fortunately, in this matchup, the board control isn't as important as, let's say, the Hunter versus Hunter matchup or the Zoo versus Zoo matchup, where if you get board control, you pretty much are guaranteed board control for most of the game. Like if you have a definitive board control advantage, right? Yep. Like it's still possible for both players to draw somewhat dead. Yeah. And it's also like there's also the possibility of huge Blade Flurry swings.
Well, especially rogues have so many low health creatures, right? They never really play anything with more than 4 or 5 health, so there's never like a big setup. Lotheb is something I actually see most rogues keep in the mulligan in the mirror match, even if you don't have anything else to go with the hand. You just want Lotheb like every time to get locked down a turn with a fat guy.
Yeah. I like Sap here. It saves your weapon. And in this mirror, I feel like the Azure Drake is just the best minion to Sap.
Yeah.
Like what else are you going to Sap, right? I guess a Van Cleef, but we haven't really... Has either player played Van Cleef in this match? I think Irony might have it in his deck.
Yeah, Irony has one. Powder doesn't. At least we never saw it in any of the previous matches. Irony's also playing 2 heal bots, which gives him a bit more flex in this match. A lot of the time you just push face damage against the other rogue, but Powder did see the double heal bot last time, so he'll probably play a little safer. He could have gone for just killing the Drake there as well. He had the 3 damage on weapon, so... This feels pretty uncomfortable. I think you might just play Azure Drake again and backstab the SI agent. Nope.
So this seems to be an oil play? Ooh.
You almost might want to leave that on the board. That does stop a lot of plays from the rogue, but yeah, let's just go for the flurry, I guess. We were going to do it anyways.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't have minded just saving it up, but you were kind of committed to that play when you played the Tinker Sharpsword Oil and you left yourself with 2 mana.
Yeah, the only other play he could have done was eviscerate the SI agent. Well, there's really not many creatures from Powder, so I expect a sprint next turn, which is still a great position for him, being up on life total, but the fact that this can be removed really easily, you just eviscerate it, and however you want to do that, you can play Healbot eviscerate, Azure Drake eviscerate. So if you're sprinting next turn, then it's giving control to Irony where he hasn't had it at any point previous in the battle.
I'm a little surprised that he's like thinking about the heal bot. I don't really think you're really in that much danger of dying since your opponent has a one charge weapon and not a two charge weapon.
Yeah, I actually really like the heal bot here. It does mean that his Powder's weapon will kill the heal bot, which is a little unfortunate because then the sprint is more effective. But you get the life now, and then you don't get forced into it later, right? So
Yeah,
if
that's a
you're
good
at
point.
10, you have to do it, but you can
Yeah,
just get it done.
I guess the other thing is the spell power is pretty valuable to play from hand from the Azure Drake, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely with the fan of knives and backstab. Not gonna sprint. So he values that weapon a lot, I guess, because sprint and attack seemed really good there.
I don't think it's gonna actually work out too much for him. He definitely wanted some kind of minion
Yeah.
that he could have played on this turn.
Yeah, now he's attacking with the weapon anyways, right? Because he has two oils, so he wants a fresh dagger. There's a lot of things going on here, though. This could actually be a way better play, where he gets the fresh dagger, and if he sprinted, he wouldn't have a dagger on, so this way he's set up for a lot more burst damage immediately. How much damage is that, actually? Two oils for 7 damage weapon. He's doing 14, plus the eviscerate with spell power. It would be technically lethal if you do 2 oils and then on the next turn you play Azure Drake, eviscerate, flurry.
Yeah, but you would have to have some kind of prep or just get up to 10 mana and also a prep.
No, no, you could do it now. It's over the course of 2 turns.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you just do 2 oils next turn flat out on the weapon. You get an exact 20. Of course, Irony does have the second heal bot, so it's a really risky play because it would get shut down by even 1 extra health.
Yeah, and then you basically you could technically have not seen this like random ooze that Irony has had in this deck, but he hasn't shown in like the 5 games that he's played with the Rogue.
Yeah. The nice thing about going for the line of play of being aggressive is you have a chance to win, and I think Powder is able to take a risk because, of course, he's up 1 extra game. But prep, it doesn't let him kill, but he can at least sprint here, so there's other options in play. Either way, the flurry would kill every single thing that Irony could play, so going for the flat damage guarantees you can get board control even if you won't kill him next turn.
Yeah, Powder definitely he sees that line of play, especially with that prep that he just drew. And he was counting the amount of damage that he had in his deck, or in his hand rather.
It was
There's
exactly 20, but for 2 turns.
Yeah. You see the Farseer, and again, we have to go back to the fact that Irony has a Shade in his deck. And I feel like in this matchup, the Shade is significantly worse if you don't get it on turn 3.
This is a nice play. I like this. You push a lot of face damage, you clear off the Drake, you still have another oil, and you've got your own 7 Drake there, just threatening, so... Oh, there's the other heal bot. Absolutely amazing draw. Then you throw the backstab SI in on top of it.
Yeah. The benefit of seeing the second heal bot, though, is that now you know that Irony is at 19 HP for the remainder of the game. He can't heal up anymore since there's no way he plays an Earthring Farseer in this deck as well.
It's getting pretty awkward now, though. With the flurry gone and 2 creatures on the board, you don't want to be dealing with these creatures. Well, it didn't really help that much. Can kill one of the creatures, either with backstab or eviscerate. You have to attack into one if you backstab.
Okay.
Really technical play in a match like this. You can see managing card draw, face damage, board control. There's like 3 different mechanics in play, each of which can win the game.
I like this matchup a lot better these days compared to back in the Naxxramas days, since it feels a lot more back and forth with the addition of heal bots and just general a lot of healing. It just felt
Yeah.
like back in those days, like whoever got the early lead, you couldn't really come back from the game because you could burst for so much and your opponent can't heal. But now with all these heal bots, with the Earthring Far series becoming way more common, we can have a lot of back and forth rogue matches like this.
Yeah, I agree. The heal bot really spiced up some of these technical matches. The hand warlock match as well just gives that like ability to make better decisions in the course of a long game rather than go for a single strategy. I think the Earthen Ring Farseer was pretty much the only heal you took before, right?
Yeah.
The other heals were so terrible. Wow, that's a lot of damage. And there's, well, you can earthen yourself, I suppose. And technically, you do live there.
Yeah, the decision to use the Eviscerate last turn instead of using the Backstab plus a Dagger Poke probably might cost him since he has to use a Sap now.
Yep.
Yep.
Is there any way to draw into lethal? If he drew Flurry, I think he would have lethal with the current board, right? Not Irony Powder, rather. Irony, of course, has no damage in his hand, so...
Yeah, but that means that his board still has to stick.
Lotheb, pretty strong. I think he'll play that for sure.
I think Lotheb might just lock out the game because he can clear out this entire board. Actually, not that easily.
Yeah, he can sap one, but that's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
only way to remove it all.
So Sap, Backstab, SI, Lotheb. And then you have, like, all the damage on your board is almost guaranteed then.
I think he might be better off not to sap. That's really interesting that he didn't play the SI agent, though. Yeah, might as well get a new dagger. The screen shakes with the weight of that weapon attack.
Okay, so it was Powder who had the Van Cleave here.
Oh.
And quite interestingly enough, even though Powder's at 6 HP with no healing left in his deck, Irony still does not have lethal. He could draw into it though.
Yeah.
Prep,
He needs
sprint, draw into an Eviscerate. Is there another? Is there another oil? No, he's used both oils in his deck. Oh, there's definitely an Eviscerate coming out.
Oh, there it is.
All right, there it is. There's the shade that we were talking about the entire time as well.
So it ties it up 2-2. We've had a lot of 5-game series today. These have just been absolutely like ridiculous matches, always coming down to the final one.
Yeah, I think yesterday we even had 4 3-2s and 1 3-0. And
Yep.
I think this kind of speaks to the format of Conquest, where it's very often that a deck kind of gets stuck, as we saw in the last match between Powder and Nostum, where the handlock just kind of got stuck out there.
Yep. So it'll come down to Patron Warrior versus Rogue, which we've seen quite a few times. It's been a very interesting match. Each time it seems to have a different outcome, so I am really looking forward to that. A great one to decide the series on, I think.
Yeah. The hands, though, definitely favor Irony, I would have to say. And one key about this matchup is that we've pretty much seen the entirety of Powder's deck, and he doesn't have any weapon removal in it. So these Death Spites, these Fire War Axes, they're going to stick. And with the Death Spites, they're going to make patrons.
And so this is a huge match for these guys. This is advancement into the semifinals or getting knocked out of the entire tournament. So there's a lot of pressure on the decisions that they make here in such a like specific battle of gambling on what their opponent will have.
Yeah, this hand seems to be pretty good for Powder, though. I feel like the turn 4 is pretty important, and not only that, he has the combination of Deadly Poison, Blade Flurry, so he's able at least to deal with the first wave of patrons.
Did you see if he kept Backstab as his opening hand? I would expect that he didn't, but it's just like sometimes maybe autopilot you keep Backstab.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure there.
Either way, yeah, this looks really good. Picking up a prep if you could find a sprint. he would be in God mode position, but he'll be playing on curve for the next 2 turns anyways. The hand on the other side of things for Irony looks pretty solid too. He has early Patron, which would get punished. He needs a charge, and then his Emperor is really amazing. That's okay. So I guess technically that's a safe play because he can't Harrison yet, but there's definitely Harrisons running around in these Patron decks. So committing your Deadly Poison and then potentially losing your Blade Flurry later could be super bad. Wow.
Okay, so I think Powder realizes that. He goes for the anti-Harrison play. But yeah, you're definitely right. Like, I guess he just wants to set this up, so maybe Irony is less inclined to do patrons. Oh my god. Another Ancient Watcher. It's just raining Ancient Watchers these days.
Yeah, that's completely useless, and it's like potentially going to take an oil buff. It's going to help out Frothings. It's going to be there. The Rogue can't get rid of it at all, so the Warrior can use it to his advantage.
And not only that, Powder doesn't have any silences in this deck. And I feel like maybe the only worst minion there might have been possibly a Lore Walker Cho, but that's debatable as to who that's worse for.
I wonder if he would have played Patrons there if Powder hadn't telegraphed the Blade Flurry. Like, it was really clear that Powder has Blade Flurry when he put the poison on early and attacked with it into nothing. Because we saw Trump in the last time, we saw this matchup, was able to get the Patron off early, and it won him the entire game. So he did have 2 Patrons, which made it a little more tempting than what Irony's hand is.
Yeah, and now because there's no big weapon for Powder, Irony can potentially just go for the big Patron turn.
Yeah. Although once you've Empered it, I think you're greedy here, right? You're greedy. You want to see that charge. You want to see a Frothing with it. There's so much damage in hand if you picked up a combo.
Harrison Jones to draw for 2.
Yeah, I mean, you got to do that, right?
Yeah, I think you do that not because you want to kill this weapon, but because you don't really have too many other plays here.
Yep, it's good pressure on the board too because there's only a 3-attack creature.
Yeah, Powder gives his like almost signature head shake. He's like not a player that gets salty, but like you can tell he gets like slightly frustrated inside.
Yeah, I think in game he plays it out really well, even if he's frustrated. But that he might get frustrated and just ignore that and play the math anyways. This hand, you know, it was looking good for Powder. He keeps just throwing that Deadly Poison on, though, and I don't like that he telegraphs that he has an answer, because, I mean, Irony's hand is so tempting to play Patrons out, but when you see another Deadly, like, you're still expecting that Flurry. I think a lot of Patrons would have played out the Patron here, at least with, like, a minor Inner Rage, Unstable Ghoul or something, and just attempted it.
Yeah. The big problem here for Powder is he's out of card draw. Like, the sap is useless in this matchup, really. And, like, what does he have going for him?
A sprint top deck, because he's got a prep. That's about it.
Teacher's all right, but it's no sprint.
It seems like you're taking a risk no matter what here, right? Like, no matter what you do, you're going to get punished for it if the Patron Warrior had a perfect hand. Like, if the Patron Warrior had a perfect hand, he could kill you next turn. So there's, like, no way you're going to be able to gamble around everything. You just have to go for some plays. Wow.
Sapping a no mission venture?
I think this actually fills up Irony's hand, though.
Okay. So maybe if the Warsong Commander were burned. Okay, Whirlwind is burned. That's all right. That's actually, like, probably removes around, like, 5 to 10 damage off of a burst combo.
There's so much activators in Irony's hand. He just needs something to go with it. Picks up an Armor Smith, not any use.
Is there any way that Powder could kill Irony with the perfect hand? Like,
he's got to go sprint.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's good. Yeah. That's the second best draw. Fan of Knives. Okay, that's a decent follow-up.
At least he's moving, right? He's getting somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, there's this
finally.
red. Yeah, at least he's moving. It's like how in traffic, like if you're at least moving, you feel a little better than if you're just like standing still and deadlocked in traffic.
Irony has drawn so many cards. We saw Firebat yesterday draw to like 3 cards left in his deck, and both Warsong Commanders were in the bottom 3 cards.
Yeah.
It feels like a similar story from Irony, but he's actually managed not even to pick up a Frothing yet. At 27, it's out of reach of just patrons with charge anyways.
Yeah, and that's actually the second Death Spite, I think. So Irony just he has so many activators, whirlwind activators, that he just doesn't even need Death Spite anymore, and he can use it to clear off minions.
I think I would even consider playing an Unstable Ghoul here. He has too many activators at this point, and like, yeah, this is fine. He's safe either way, but just getting as much health as he can here so that he buys time to draw into those cards that will win him the game. Well, at least there's a sprint. Let's see what it brings. Oh, wow.
Oh, that's pretty surprising as well.
Yeah. I think the 2-mana Ghoul was better there. You could have even got him to Blade Flurry, your Ghoul combo.
Yeah, it just looks like feast or famine. He either gets 2 sprints or none.
He didn't play another prep yet, right? So he could actually draw into a prep and play the second sprint as well.
Sick.
Don't flurry. 2 SI agents is really good here. Oh, he doesn't have another flurry yet, though. Okay, well, it's a long way to go. The warrior's above maximum health.
Yeah. Still no war songs and no frothings.
Finally,
This
a
the
Frothing.
first one.
This is probably like, I don't know, could we get a card check on the warrior's deck? There's really not much left there.
8
8
cards,
cards.
versus 9 cards.
Very even.
Okay.
Feels so vulnerable as Powder, knowing that the patron warrior's got, like, he's got to have everything at this point. He's missing one crucial piece to the puzzle, and you have to wonder how long that'll last.
This guy's toast.
He's like, there's not that many activators left anymore, having played out the whirlwind on just the armor smiths. Might have lost Monk again. Are you there with me, my man? We seem to have lost Monk from Skype again. In any case, there's not a lot of activators here. He has the 2 unstable ghouls, but they require something to trigger, and they're much more expensive. And because he played out the patron that cost mana as well. You there, Monk? I think I can hear you. No, just crazy. Alright. Well, he's got both Frothings. Yeah, I mean, the mana concern is pretty real here. Without having the Emperor on that hand, like, what does he do to actually win? He plays Warsong, Frothing, and 1 Ghoul, and that's no damage. Of course, there are patrons now, and I suppose Powder did not pick up the second Blade Flurry, despite having like 5 cards left in his deck. That first Blade Flurry was a bit early, premature, in my opinion. He could have done double SI Agent and killed the 2 Armor Smiths on that other turn. It would have ended up giving actually less overall armor, although it would have left a 2/2 on the board. In any case, can he do anything here to stop this board? Because he's certainly not dead, even if the board remains. You gotta feel like, as Powder, oh man, I'm dead, right? As Powder, you think there's no way here. And so I'm hoping that he still tries his best, because there is definitely a way. Yeah, I like this play. You can prep Eviscerate and then play Van Clef. Oh. Yeah, that's fine. Actually, there's an execute in hand anyways, and there's bound to be an execute, so. There's the war song. Yeah, I guess with patrons already on the board, this is how it works, right? This is how you get it done. He wouldn't have had enough mana otherwise, but with patrons already on the board, it's really easy just to throw some frothings in there, and suddenly the damage is overwhelming. I'm not sure what the math is, but it's going to be a huge amount of damage with 2 frothings. Only 1 whirlwind should probably be sufficient. Frothings are each going to have +6, +8. Each frothing will have 14 damage, I believe. Seems like about 14. And then, yeah, I mean, that's 28 damage just from the frothing. So the patrons will close out the series. And it looks like Irony is going to be the one to advance versus Powder here. Yeah, they both have 14. Meaning that the frothings alone had killed him. Those patrons did not even need to attack. Showing off in style how much he can overkill Powder. That was a really great series from Powder. I think that last game, I mean, burning the flurry early, it was a choice. He had the second sprint. He could have maybe picked up the other flurry and then it was reasonable, but because he didn't, it really hurt him. And unfortunately, it didn't work out. So that will be the final game today. I see you there, Monk. Can I hear your beautiful voice? No. Monk, all right, so I will give you guys the shoutouts then. For geico.on.gg, you can see the link down below. You can easily sign up for it, and it will enter you to win a PC. It also helps out the esports scene because Geico has put quite a bit of sponsorship into this. This has been an absolutely fantastic tournament for players like myself, for the people who participate in this. You guys can sign up for the Opens. There will be 1 more of these feature tournaments, and there's going to be 2 qualifiers for that, both EU and North America. Tomorrow, we will be doing the semifinals and finals, so we get to see the culmination of this event. We're just flipping through some of the screens so you guys can see.
Wait,
Cool.
what the hell? Now I can hear you guys.
Hey, welcome back, Monk.
Wait, what just happened?
Well, Irony won the game versus Powder, and it was interesting. Like, you could definitely go back and review that match and see that there was ways, I think, it could have ended up differently. But it was a really good series, and of course we get the Overlord view of all the cards, so it makes the decisions.
It definitely, it seemed like Powder could have come back at the end with his card draw that he eventually got, but it's just overall the patron seems to be a bit stronger at the end with the burst combos. The rogue not necessarily has all those big bursts, especially when the warrior can armor up and the rogue can't.
Did you get to watch that match? So at the very end, patrons were played out, and Powder couldn't clear them. He didn't have a flurry, and because of that, Irony was able to charge double frothing with Ghoul, but the Emperor had already been played, and if the board was cleared, the frothings could only get the single activator from the Ghoul, so there was really no way to land a kill on the rogue. Would have been pretty interesting if he had had the flurry there to remove that initial patron board, but
Yeah, it just goes back to that play where, like you suggested, Powder could have cleared the board off with the 2 SI agents, but he instead opted to go for a Blade Flurry clear instead.
and he drew to like 5 cards left, right? So it was really unfortunate that his other flurry didn't show up at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we have the games for tomorrow, which will be really awesome. We have Firebat and Trump playing each other in the semifinals, so make sure you guys tune in early tomorrow because that'll be a good game to watch. And we have Suki Pen versus Irony on the other side of the bracket, and then they will advance to the finals, playing for $3,000 and World Championship points and Geico sponsorship for packs. There's just a lot of things that they can take in these next 2 series, so it's really important games.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to talk about our wonderful sponsors, Geico?
I did, but you're welcome to give them a shout out as well, Monk.
Yeah, of course. You can always check out our sponsor, Geico. Give them a shout out at geico.onog.gg, where you can find a free quote for your car insurance. You can save 15% or more, and you only have to use 15 minutes. Where have I heard that before? You can also enter for a chance to win an official TSM PC, one of the best PCs on the market right now at that same website. Of course, join our opens, join our tournament. There will be opens on the 10th and the 12th on both the EU and NA servers. And I think that's all we have. You can check us out tomorrow at around the same time, 12 p.m. EDT, 9 a.m. Pacific time, and 6 p.m. at Central Eastern time. So that's all we have. Hotform, do you have any final shout outs before we close it off?
You guys can follow me on Twitter at HotformHS. Also, I will probably be streaming for some hours later today, but I won't start right away. So I'll see some of you guys soon if you want to check that out.
Yep. I think that's all we have for today. Make sure you join us once again, and have a good day, guys.
See you later.